Chapter 4. The Birth of the Grymkin. Those who bore witness to the defiers' acts of rebellion, and those who watched as Menoth cast them into hell, remembered those 5 ungovernable souls and shared stories of their disobedience. They retold the legends as cautionary tales to their children. In the light of crackling logs or swinging oil lanterns, defier stories spread in quiet whispers and drunken rants. Across the bogs and the fields of the world, the legends of the defiers grew and changed over time as tales of those who foolishly stood like oaks against the burning wrath of a god. Grandmother stories and father's warnings came down through the generations like the white tendrils of a weed, taking firm root in the fertile soil of imagination. Generation after generation spun these tales, wheedling out fireplace epics with their hushed words, always adding to the legend and embellishing it. Though they were told as warnings, in many of these tales was a hint of admiration for those who rebelled, drawing from long-buried dreams of lost freedom. Away in their prison, the 5 heard the tinny echoes of the tales that grew around them. They supped on those fables and mopped up each honeyed word with the crust of childish fears, rejoicing in the sweet flavor it offered them in their trackless confinement. The defiers seized the stories with greedy fingers, pulling in each new spun tale and holding it tight, basking in the comforting warmth it spread in their aching meat and frozen bones. In turn, they passed their own stories back to those able to hear them. Through dreams brought on by fevers, the defiers whispered clarity into the minds of storytellers. To the unquieted imagination of certain men, they showed visions of the hell they inhabited. And so, as the stories from above helped to shape and refine their appetites and bodies, they fed their own stories back to the world of the living to magnify their legends. As time went on and the stories grew and multiplied and changed, the defiers caught sight of others doing what they never could, passing through the veil that separated the world of the living from the world of the dead. These were the souls of the deceased, who took a road barred to the defiers on the way to their afterlife. Each pious soul hoped to arrive safely in Menoth's ever-expanding city in Urkaean, while others wandered lost and doomed in the trackless wilds, never to find their final reward. It was the wayward souls that drew the attention of the defiers, especially the heretic. By their very nature, these lost souls felt inexorably drawn to the defiers, their wandering paths not as directionless as they thought. Tales told of the defiers on Cain had paved unseen roads to their realms in hell, routes of least resistance opened by the fears and doubts of those who were wicked in life and whose fates were already linked by the legends of the 5. Men and women who had committed sins against their fellows, fearing the defiers after death, and that fear forged an unbreakable chain, pulling them to their inevitable punishment. Urkaean has never been kind to the impious, to the doubters, the lax, the selfishly cruel, and the lazily greedy. Such souls arrived in the afterlife far from the realms of the gods, and they became easy prey for monstrous creatures, forced to run from myriad horrors dwelling in the shifting expanse of Urkaean's hell. In their terror, they took what seemed the easiest path, down rocky hills, along clear trails, through chattering woods, following the banks of icy rivers. All of these paths took them straight to the defiers, who waited for them in vast dreamscapes they had carved for themselves. Each of these wayward souls were seized and scrutinized, laid bare by the heretic or another of the 5 who read their history of their lives and transgressions engraved into their very being. Lives were peeled back, year by year, like the layers of an onion, revealing secrets, hopes, and deep-dwelling fears, and long-buried regrets and humiliations. Examining these souls, the defiers confirmed the truth of the conclusion they had drawn at the outset of their rebellion. Mortals had been marred by the foul fruits that thrived in Menoph's civilization. Drunkards, cowards, liars, cheats, the vain and jealous, all twisted by their shallow lives. The defiers saw what each soul was truly made of, and with the power they seized, they saw fit to pass judgment on them. The defiers acted as a fractured mirror for the spirits before them, reflecting their own inadequacies. In those reflections, the souls saw themselves as the wretched beings they were, having lived their lives at the expense of others. They wielded the gifts of Menoph like weapons, using them purely to better their own selfish lives. In the plight of their victims, the defiers saw a reflection of their own unjust suffering at the hands of Menoph, and the righteous anger of the five helped to fuel their transformation. The essence of the wayward souls was reshaped to better match the sins within each. That which is dead cannot normally live again, but the powers of the defilers allowed these spirits a different sort of afterlife, one that would eventually be permanent, a return to Cain. Fueled by the defier's judgments, the natural laws that preserve a soul's coherence was overwritten and replaced. These gave the spirits new and grotesque bodies and minds, utterly removed from their past lives. Hearkening to the old stories that cautioned them against the very sins for which they had been judged, and guided by the defier's mad dreams, these souls took on wholly new forms. Each was bound up by some old story or legend, a folk tale or children's nursery rhyme. These became the Grymkin. The defiers discovered that the Grymkin were not as firmly bound to Urkaean as either the defiers themselves or the ordinary spirits of the dead. Each time a new soul crossed from the land of the living into the realm of the dead, its passage left a temporary pinprick in the barrier between the worlds. These small gateways soon closed on their own accord, and were too small to allow the passage of anything to return, especially the powerful defiers. In this, their own magnificence betrayed them. Yet Grymkin, with their particular and chimerical forms, could slip through these small pinpricks with ease. Each time a dead spirit passes, there's a small chance a Grymkin will leap back into the world of the living, balancing out the scales. The defiers instructed the growing throng of Grymkin to lie in wait for these small doors to open, to return to Cain at every opportunity. Sometimes many souls tumbled through at once, such as the height of a great battle where death was thick, and a throng of Grymkin could rush back through the other way. The heretics studied these passages with a scholar's eye. Nights when moons were dark and the stars aligned in certain ways let more powerful Grymkin through, as did the deaths of innocent men and women who fell victim to Menoph's cruel justice. More failed to cross than succeeded, but each one who made it through was a small victory, a way for the defiers to change Cain, however indirectly, and to prove and pave a way for a greater reckoning to come. Grymkin used the wars of humanity for their own advantage, slipping through unnoticed like bilge rats stowing away on the holds of a great ship. And so, over the long years of the defiers' imprisonment, numerous Grymkin crossed over from Urkaean. Each was filled with a desire to bring mischief and danger to the world of the living, to invoke fear and nightmares, to punish the wicked. They felt compelled by their very natures to seek out those whose souls had been marked by the same corruption that defined their own shaping. Each kind of Grymkin hungered for a certain flavor of sin, a specific variety of blemish and weakness. Sin is called to sin. Murderers sought out murderers, and thieves sought out thieves. Some Grymkin even possessed the power to transform others to become like them, spreading their nature like an infection. The seemingly capricious ways of the Grymkin inspired yet more folktales. Those who happened to witness the Grymkin claiming their victims would share their tales, delighting in the madness of the macabre, savoring the dark parables of morality and punishment. In time, through trial and error, rustic peoples learned that some of the rules the Grymkin must abide by, their often peculiar vulnerabilities. These too were shared from father to son, from mother to daughter, down through the years. As cities rose and grew, pushing back the dark forests and hidden places where the Grymkin lurked, the truth behind these tales was slowly forgotten. But hidden within most nursery rhymes and bedtime stories were hints of truths about the Grymkin, though not their origins or deeper purpose. The Grymkin sowed the seeds of the wicked harvest for centuries, seeds the defiers and their armies of nightmares would reap when the time was right.